What's going on, nation? AJ Reilly here with Paul Rochon for our latest episode of Beyond the Box. It is NFL Draft Week, Paul, and we are a couple days away from our live first-round coverage of that NFL Draft. And I know last week you were trepidatious. Hopefully that excitement is building a little bit more as we get closer to the draft. And tonight on our show, we have a ton of stuff to cover. We've got our perfect three-round mock drafts that we put together. We've got some out-on-the-limb thoughts. We also have some guarantees that we think are guaranteed to happen Thursday night. And then just some stuff that we need to get off our chest about this NFL draft. And, Paul, without any delay, because we have a lot to cover, let's hop right into those mock drafts. And we're going to kind of banter back and forth, round by round. Where did you go with that number 2 pick?
I'm getting more trepidatious and anxious. All these reports that are coming out that, oh my goodness, Jacksonville might not take Aiden Hutchinson. They're maybe leaning in a different direction. The Trayvon Walker hype has hit just absolute peak. Even though if they don't go with Aiden Hutchinson, I don't think it's going to be him. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But I'm not going to allow myself to be disappointed, AJ. I'm not going to pretend that Aiden Hutchinson's going to be there. So for the purposes of this mock draft that we're doing, this first 3-round mock draft, Aiden Hutchinson's off the board. I'm not going to allow myself to feel that way and then have that disappointment just to wash over me on draft night. I'm not going to buy into it. Best prospect in the draft, expect that Jacksonville's going to do the right thing. That being said, we have to make a pick, right? If we're going to pick in the first round, multiple picks in the first round, and we need to not mess this up, whether Aiden Hutchinson's there or not. I've talked about this at length. I do believe that a trade is out there for Taylor Decker. I absolutely think that it's out there. And so, at number 2, I am taking Evan Neal. I'm doing it. I'm taking Evan Neal, who I think is the best player available. Now, if you want to go with the guy whose name I shall not pronounce from NC State, it's also a very good tackle, maybe even a guard at the next level, that's your prerogative. I love the size in the two-way player that Evan Neal is at number 2. The fact that I think he is a punishing run blocker, and that's something that Taylor Decker specifically, that I've always knocked him on. Even at his best, when he wasn't committing penalties and he was doing a good job protecting the passer, he was not a great two-way player. He did not give us any consistent push in the run game, and that's something that I think is so important for offensive linemen to be two-way players so that you can truly have a functional offense. I've got to go Evan Neal at 2. And
so you made the trade.
Yes.
Did you gain another first-round pick from that then?
We did. We gained a mid-first-round pick. And honest to God, I just had it on my screen, and now I don't remember where it was. There's a lot of tackle-needy teams in the NFL. It wasn't the Bengals. Sure. It was someone else, and I forget who it was. It was in the early 20s. We were picking.
All right.
Man, I lost it.
That's okay. While you're looking for that, I'll tell you what I did.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, while you're looking for that, I'll tell you what I did. Because, per your request, and when I ran my mock draft, Aiden Hutchinson was not available. So I looked for a trade. And the Saints actually offered me a deal for number 2. And so I took that deal. And what I got from them was their 16th and the 19th pick in the first round. So I gained us an extra first-round pick. And I also got a second-round pick in a future draft for the number 2 pick. Which, PFF graded as a B-plus transaction. I'm okay with that because we've always said that if we don't even get the absolute trade chart value for number 2, getting something and gaining more capital is good, right? So we moved out, in my mock, we moved out of the number 2 pick to the 16th pick, the 19th pick, and then ended up with the 32nd pick as well. So we have 3 picks towards the mid to late first round in my mock, which I think is wonderful because here's what we ended up getting. We ended up getting, at 16, Nakobe Dean. At 19, I ended up getting the safety from Georgia, Lewis Sine. And then at 32, I addressed the third level of the defense and got our edge rusher, Arnold Ebiketie, if that's how you say it. I don't want to, if I mispronounce it, I apologize, but it's Ebiketie, right? The edge rusher from Penn State. I addressed all 3 levels of the defense in the first round on day 1, and honestly, I couldn't be happier about that. especially because I got
like
my
that.
guy in Kobe.
I am curious, in your scenario, when you drafted Lewis Cine out of Georgia, who I'm actually a very big fan of, different kind of safety than some of the other safeties in the draft. I think he'll excel the most at this level, it being a box safety, although he can flare out and cover the deep half. Was Daxton Hill available? And if he was, what made you go with Cine over Daxton Hill?
So, in most of the mock drafts that I ran, okay, and I did run multiple ones, but this is the one that we did for DSN specifically, so that's why I'm talking about it. Most of them he was available in those later rounds. At 19, I liked Cine a lot of because of what you said on the big picture last week of the type of player that he is and how good of a player that he is. It's not that Daxton Hill isn't a good pick. I just thought that Cine at 19 brought a little bit more value, even maybe still a little bit of a reach, but brought a little bit more value than drafting Daxton at 19.
Okay, I was just curious about it. I really like both players a lot.
Yeah, had that 19 pick been 27, 30, something like that, Cine may not have been there, and I would have gone Daxton. But
for sure,
in this scenario, that's the way that it played out because, again, going off of your expertise, but also liking the player and seeing the way that he plays down in the box and can really be that tough safety that we need. Give me that guy all day at 19.
No, I'm absolutely a big fan of Cine. It was the Cowboys at 24 that I traded Taylor Decker to. I thought it might have been. Cowboys not too long ago had the best offensive line in the NFL. Mm-hmm. They've lost some pieces, and now they could use some O-line help. And so they traded the number 24 overall pick for Taylor Decker. Very fair trade both ways. And with that pick, we were able to draft Kenyon Green out of Texas A&M, a guard who I think is going to be fantastic at this level. I project him to be an upper echelon guard, a real punishing blocker, a guy who can also get out in space, a guy who can pull, a guy who can get to the second level. I really like him on this line. I don't know if he's going to be a plus player at the NFL as a rookie, but he will be a day one starter for the Lions. That is part of, we have a disaster going on at guard right now. We don't have it. Center, we're good. Tackles, we're okay. But guard is a problem. He could be a day one starter for us, but this is more of a future pick. I've talked about it before in several other shows, both here and on the big picture for Detroit Sports Nation. If you were to draft Evan Neal and then get a guard of Kenyon Green's prospects, we're looking a few years down the road, combine them with Frank Ragnow and Penei Sewell, and now you're looking at maybe having the best offensive line in the entire NFL in a few years. Something that a rebuilding team like this can be off to a great start, a great place for when you get your quarterback of the future, for him to grow in, a lot of options for your offensive coordinator. Just make this a true elite strength of your team, and I love doing that. And then at 32, I'm going to preface this with, I do not think this player is going to be here. He is here in almost every mock. I think he goes before Lewis Cine, and I honestly think he goes in the 20s. I am picking, if he is there at 32, I am sprinting to the podium as fast as Daxton Hill ran his 40 to pick him. I think this is a guy whose draft stock is a little undervalued because of what he was forced to play at Michigan. This is a safety with some of the most elite athletic traits you'll ever see. He ran 4.38 at the combine. At just 17 years old, he ran 4.3 flat. This guy has been fast and fast forever, and he hasn't lost it in college. He is a very instinctual player. His play recognition is awesome. He is a screen eraser. Why is this important? Because as a deep safety, athleticism and play recognition, understanding what is unfolding in front of you and then having the athleticism to get to where the ball is going to be or get to where you need to be to either disrupt the play or stop it before it even happens. Obviously, we know we have a need at safety. He's a different kind of safety than Cine. He's the kind that I covet. Listen, both have extreme values. And if Daxton Hill's gone, I would have no problems taking Cine here. I like both players a lot. But Hill had to play what I would say is out of position for Michigan. He played a lot of nickel for us. He was isolated in a lot of one-on-ones in the slot, covering guys like a cornerback. And a lot of people said this guy could play cornerback at the next level. And you know what? I think he could. I think he'd be average as a cornerback in the NFL. As a safety, I think he has all the traits and ability to be elite as a roving safety. Use his athleticism to move him all over the field. He never has to come off the field. He has that versatility. He can slide down. He can play nickel slot corner if you need him to. He can actually blitz off the edge. He's very good at it, right? And of course, he's got 4.3 speed. Why would he not be good at it? He is an elite athlete with a really high football IQ. He can run your defense. And again, something that it's not that Michigan did anything wrong. It was what we needed. We couldn't afford to just throw him back. We needed him to play the role that he played because of other deficiencies on our defense, and that's fine. I think we just didn't showcase him at his perfect best, and I think that's depressed his draft stock a little bit, which could be great for a team like the Lions to get what may be a steal when maybe he should be a top 15 pick.
So, to recap, in the first round, I went all defense. You went Evan Neal, trade Taylor Decker to the Cowboys for pick 24, took the guard from
Texas A&M, Kenyon Green.
Texas A&M, yep, Green, right? And then you took Daxton Hill at 32. So, what did you do in the second round at 34?
Well, now we got to focus on defense a little more because we didn't do it in the first round. And listen, I hate when people get locked into, we need to draft all defense. We need to draft all offense. I understand going into a draft, you have an ideal of where your strengths and weaknesses are, but we talked about this. You have to be flexible in the draft. You have to get the best players, especially a team like the Lions that has so many deficiencies, is so poor, has so many holes. You're never going to fix them all at one draft. You can't just be like, okay, we got to fill this, and that hole. You just got to get the best players and put them in a position to succeed and then repeat over the next couple drafts. But we are hammering defense for this round. I got Quay Walker, who I like. He is a linebacker out of Georgia. You like Nakobe Dean a lot, and of course, if you have the choice, you're taking Nakobe Dean. But Nakobe Dean is way off the board by the fourth round. Mm-hmm. I would actually like to try
by the second round.
By the second round, yes. So this is pick 34, second pick of the second round. If we could trade back a little bit, still get him, that'd be nice. But I'm not taking the risk. He's there for me at 34. I'm going to draft Quay Walker, and I'm going to be happy about it. I think he's a really good player.
Awesome. So I, again, went defense. My first 4 picks, because remember I got the extra first-round pick from the trade with the Saints, I also went linebacker again, being a position of need for us, and I went Leo Chenal from Wisconsin, who I think is a great player. I like the pedigree of Wisconsin linebackers. Quay Walker was not available. And he was the best linebacker available at that spot. And so I took him at 34. Again, addressing another defensive need because, let's face it, I got locked into the defense, and I'm okay if the Lions use as many of their first picks.
As long as they're not big reaches.
As long as they're not big reaches, I agree. Like a Kyle Hamilton at 2, but that's beside the point. I digress. I went Chenal at 34, and I think that would be a good addition to the linebacking core that needs some help. But I will say that I did start to address offense in the third round. But I want to hear your third round first. So who did you go with in the third round?
We got 2 third-round picks. Don't forget.
66 and 97, I believe, correct?
We do. I was really torn, and a lot of this depends on who's going to be there. And we don't know, man. We really don't. And I'm just going to go safe with 2 guys that I'm confident are going to be there. Because the thing with these mock draft simulators is they're not very good. And the further you go into the draft, the worse they get. They just get worse. So
which is why we're only doing a perfect 3-round.
That's why we're only doing 3.
Exactly.
So with our first pick in the third round, I like, and you're going to laugh at me, I may adjust this, but my first one is Cam Taylor-Britt out of Nebraska, cornerback. Okay. I think he's a pretty darn good player. We've talked a lot about Nebraska's deficiencies over the years and the issues they've had. We're talking about a 3-win college football team or how many ever they had last year. It was a rough time, even though they had a lot of close games. But they had some players on that defense. And he is one of them. I think he could be a really solid cornerback at the next level. And I'm comfortable taking him in this position. I mean, you're talking about a third-round pick. It's not super high risk. The ceiling is there. And I think at the absolute worst, he's going to be a good special teamer. And he's going to be a good hybrid guy. If he doesn't work out and just stick at corner, you have a lot of versatility with him, whether it's coming down in nickel, whether it's mixing it up in some big nickel packages as an extra safety. And that's if he doesn't work out at corner. I think he could be a really solid corner. He flashed a lot at Nebraska to me. That team was a mess, but they had some players. I really like him. Then we have the first compensatory pick in the third round, number 97. And with that, I am torn. I am so torn. Do I want to reach, or do I want to go for a guy who maybe will be gone by then? I really like cornerback, again, Marcus Jones out of Houston. But he is not just a cornerback. He is an electric little guy, and I mean little. I think he's like 5'8", 5'9". He's a small guy. He is arguably the best kick and punt returner in all of college football. And I think he will be elite at that at the next level. Special teams returning is something that I value very highly. And when you can fill a roster spot with someone who can do that really well and possibly have them in other aspects of your team where they can develop, I think that's a huge win. I think he has big upside as a slot corner. He is small, but he has sticky coverage traits. He's really fast. He's very agile. And listen, he's got to grow at this game. He has to get a little bit stronger, and he has to get used to the NFL size and speed. Of course, every corner coming into this level does. And the smaller you are, the harder it is. But we've seen small guys excel in the slot. And this is a guy that the absolute worst he's going to do for you is be your starting kick and punt returner. The worst thing you're going to get out of him. But I think he has real defensive upside, and I would like to see that. And if we're not on board with that, because I am so torn, it may be a little bit of a reach. I don't know how the draft is going to work out, but I've talked about him before. I really like JoJo Doman, linebacker out of Nebraska. A guy with really good coverage skills. If you've noticed the theme here in the third round, we have got to cover some guys. We're not very good at it. JoJo Doman is a linebacker with very good coverage skills. He actually moved around. He played some safety and corner for Nebraska. He is a linebacker by trade. Some people think he's a little bit undersized. I think he's a perfect outside linebacker that can actually cover NFL players. If it wasn't for having multiple ACL surgeries, I think he would be easy, like a second-round pick. I really think this guy can be a value. I think he's going to go more around the fourth round in the actual NFL draft. But we're talking first compensatory pick in the third. I wouldn't mind him at all. I think he's a really good high upside pick. And these late day 2 and early day 3 picks, that's what they are. They're guys that you believe in the right, if everything breaks right, they can be good NFL starters. And that's the risk that you're trying to take.
So our drafts obviously played out differently because you addressed offensive line and then started to address defense in the second, third round. I addressed defense right away, and then now in the third round, I start to address our offense. But I don't address offense in the way that you would think, because you would think with that first third-round pick, everybody would say draft what?
Don't say a quarterback.
No. I had an option to draft a quarterback. No. But I passed on.
See, I'm doing something on purpose here, and I know I'm derailing you. I know, I know, and I feel a little bit bad. But you know how I feel about drafting a receiver in the first 3 rounds for us. And everybody wants us to draft a receiver. Some people want it in the first round, and I'm against it. So I know where you were trying to go with it. I'm derailing you a little bit. I apologize, but I just
So guess what?
I don't like it.
I passed on a quarterback. Carson Strong was there. I passed on him. I also passed on wide receiver at 66.
My man.
And I addressed the trenches. And I drafted the tackle from Central Michigan, Luke Gedicke.
Okay.
To fill out that offensive line. I didn't really read up too much on him, but I imagine that there could be a sliding of somewhere along that offensive line to fill in or at least create depth in the third round. Because let's be honest, you can never have too many offensive linemen. Somebody's going to go down, somebody's going to get hurt. You need somebody next man up in that sense.
And we talked about this before, where you want a good 6th lineman that can play multiple positions because he's your 6th best guy, but he can slide in if you lose a guard.
Like in that all players list, he was right there near the top, and I was like, I will always go that way. So I passed on the wide receiver at 66. Then we got to 97, and I was offered a trade by the Baltimore Ravens. And so I took that trade. I gave them 97, and then I gave them future round 5, round 6, round 7 picks, which I don't really care about. And I got pick 100, so I moved back 3 spots. And I got pick 110 in the 4th round. So it gave us an additional pick in that 4th round, which I think can kind of be a money spot, right? So with pick 100 to finish my 3rd round, later in the 3rd round, so don't hate me too much, I did select a wide receiver there. And I selected David Bell from Purdue. Because he was there. Well, at least
it's a wide receiver I like.
Yeah, because he was there, because I saw what he could do on the football field, and I like him. And if he's there at pick 100, that's not a bad receiver to add to the wide receiver core. Because he's now got something to prove. He's the type of player that I think would fit well, given what I saw in the, for sure the Michigan State game, because he absolutely torched that secondary.
I was going to bring that up. I knew that was the game that sold you on David Bell. I knew it.
But so that's the way I rounded out my top 3. And then, or my first 3 rounds, was I did finally get that receiver that everybody's clamoring for, but I knew and I held fast to that philosophy because I agree with it being, you don't draft a wide receiver until you absolutely have to, and I didn't feel like I had to until pick 100. And so, that's our ultimate mock drafts right there. And I would say that if either one of those drafts happen for the Lions, ain't nobody getting punched Thursday night, ain't nobody having veins pop out of their forehead, ain't nobody walking off set, but we're actually probably high-fiving each other going, that was a good draft. At
least we didn't blow it. At least we didn't do anything preposterous, as we talked about last week. Just right. Avoid the preposterous. I do want to point out for the listeners, if it seems like AJ's draft was a little more multiversal and exciting and had a lot more shifting going on, we did this thing for Detroit Sports Nation that they've been publishing. We did PFF's mock draft simulator. And the idea was we were going to kind of use this to guide this segment tonight. AJ's was not too far out of the realm of reality, so he just went with a full bore. The problem is I did the same simulator, and my draft was so absurdly, redonkulously good, just in realm of reality that would never happen in an actual NFL draft. I didn't feel comfortable putting it out here because it's so unrealistic. My first round alone, it's impossible. In the trades that I was offered, that I didn't push through the simulator, that they came up organically, and I guess to the algorithm, they made sense. It didn't make sense in real life, so I wasn't going to put this out there because it's a pipe dream, and I'm not going to hold Brad Holmes to the expectation of pipe dreams. I understand what's realistic. You got to make logical decisions based in reality. This isn't a video game. So AJ's was a little more exciting, but his is actually possible.
And I will tell you that I am going to hold Brad Holmes to this standard, and anything less than Dean, Sign, Abike, Chenal, Gedeke, and Bell in the first 3 rounds, fire them. Get rid of them. Just be done. We're done.
Just get rid of them. You just want Nakobe Dean at all costs. I know you just want Nakobe Dean. Is all you care about.
I do. And you know what? Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I'm fanboying a little bit, but
we take Nakobe Dean at number 2, and you're going to be like, the value wasn't great, but I'll accept it.
No, I will be like, that was a blown pick. But I also will be like, yay, Nakobe Dean. Anyway, let's move on, Paul. Let's move on.
We can do that.
Go ahead. Why don't you go ahead and segue this one for us?
I don't know which one we're starting with.
Oh, man. Okay, then I'll go ahead and segue it. Perfect. So here's the deal.
I just don't know the order.
That's fine. So what we wanted to talk about was, what is your, kind of this Thursday night, what is your out on the limb draft take? What is your out on the limb draft take? I have mine, and I'll get to mine.
I hate that this is out on the limb because, honest to God, I feel like I'm living in Looney Tunes land.
For sure.
I alluded to it at the beginning of the show. Rumors out there, Jacksonville, they might be leaning away from Aiden. I'm trying not to get my hopes up. But one of the things out there is that or at least it's been out there for a while, is that Trayvon Walker could be the guy at number 1. And I'm here to tell you that not only am I almost certain that he is not going to be the guy at number 1, and I'll get into that in a minute, Trayvon Walker is not a top 10 prospect. Now, I'm not saying he's not going to go in the top 10. I want to be clear. But he is not a top 10 prospect in this draft. And I think it is absurd, the rise that he's had. Now, look, a lot of people have pointed and say that, listen, at no point during the college football season was he considered hardly a first-round pick, let alone in the top half of the first round. So where did this blow-up come from? Well, things do change a lot as we shift into actual draft season. And a lot of that comes from a lot of the analysts and experts that cover draft season start getting more intel from the teams themselves, from draft personnel, from scouts. And as they do more final evaluations, the combine comes around, things do change. So that's not like the worst part of this. It's not like people could see some stuff on tape that they haven't seen before. Maybe the guys that sit at home and just do this for NFL Network or ESPN, maybe they didn't have an opinion that matched up with the general scouts in the NFL, and that is known as it comes out closer to draft time. That stuff happens. What is absurd to me is that there's nothing for this to happen on, especially when we're talking about being not just the number one edge rusher in the draft, which is absurd, but the number one overall pick, which is beyond absurd. You see, to be this number one guy, you have to just blow away everything else, right? To come out of nowhere, you have to do something exceptional. So if we look at the combine and we say, okay, well, did he put up combine numbers that are just unheard of, that we've never seen before? And we look at the combine, and he was a combine hero. He put up excellent numbers at the combine. 4.59 40-yard dash, a 1.62 10-yard split. I want to say like 4.9. I'm sorry, 4.9. Was 6.9 3-cone time, somewhere around there, 6.8 3-cone time. It was good. It was a really good 3-cone time. And it's like, okay, he's really athletic. He's awesome. But his athletic score didn't torch Kayvon Thibodeau's. His athletic score didn't torch Aiden Hutchinson's, right? So why is he suddenly considered this high-ceiling prospect over those two? Aiden Hutchinson had a 1.62 40 or 10-yard split in the 40-yard dash. Aiden Hutchinson had an incredible 3-cone time. One of the best we've ever seen at a guy his size at the NFL Combine. Kayvon Thibodeau has been this athletic monster forever. That's why he was the number one prospect for what feels like 2 years, right? So, okay, you had really good combine numbers, for sure. But they didn't really put you leaps and bounds athletically ahead of these other guys. So you must have done something in college production-wise. Oh, you had 9.5 sacks. That's a pretty solid season. Wait a second.
For his career.
You had 9.5 sacks in 3 years.
Yeah.
You had a handful of sacks last season on maybe the greatest defense in college football history, surrounded by all the talent in the world. There's this all-world defensive tackle, Jordan Davis, on your team. And the big excuse for Jordan Davis is he has no production because he's double and triple teamed every play, because that's what you have to do. Well, if you're a 3 or 4 man front and they're using 2 or 3 guys to block your nose tackle, should that free up the edge rushers?
It should. It should. It definitely should.
Where's your numbers? If you have all these athletic intangibles and you are a freak athlete and you're in college on an incredible defense and they're not even gearing up to stop you because your defense is so good they have to gear up to stop these other guys, and you don't produce, and I'm supposed to believe that you're worth this high of a pick because you're just going to explode against NFL talent on teams that might not have a Jordan Davis versus the rest of college football level disparity. I don't get it. I feel like I'm in freaking literally a cartoon of just absurdity. This guy's not going number one. And people, they're like, oh, Trent Balk, he likes the athletic guys. He drafted Aldon Smith over J.J. Watt. Okay, well, that was a mistake. So hopefully we learn from mistakes, right? Shouldn't Trent Balk learn from that mistake? Because Aldon Smith, as great as he was before he had the issues up here, he wasn't J.J. Watt. So you'd think he'd look back on that decision and be like, maybe I should actually value some other things when projecting these guys. And then on top of it, the guys that you're projecting him over are not even worse athletes. They have all the production. Aiden Hutchinson has all the production in the world. Kayvon Thibodeau, while he gets knocked for taking plays off, still had production. If Kayvon Thibodeau takes plays off, what the hell does Trayvon Walker do? Because he didn't have any production with all the measurables. Dude, I feel like I'm going to say, dude, I can't handle it. He's not a top 10 prospect. There's no way he goes number 1. There's no way. It's impossible. I don't want to put anything past NFL GMs. I can't. Dude, if you think Trayvon Walker, your team should draft him in the top 10, you are the problem. I can't. I'm sorry. You can go. You're good.
My turn.
I need a break.
Okay. So, what do I think is an out there belief, or what is out on a limb for me? And here's what it is. None of these quarterback prospects are a lottery ticket for an NFL team. I don't believe any of these quarterbacks are worthy of a top first-round pick. Definitely not a top 10 pick. I don't even think they're worthy of a first-round pick. And listen, they're going to go in the first round. I'm not saying that they're not going to go in the first round, because there's some teams that are going to be desperate enough to think that they have a lottery ticket and thought that they were buying something that was going to cash out when all they really bought was a 50-cent scratcher that's going to get them about $5. That's really where we're at with these quarterback prospects. I know that everybody's up in arms about Malik Willis. And again, I have nothing against Malik Willis, but I'm not using my second round pick. I'm not using my number 2 overall pick. I'm not using the 32 overall pick to draft him at all, because I don't see the value that he's going to bring to this team. Yes, does he have a big arm? Fantastic. There have been plenty of quarterbacks that have a big arm. That doesn't mean that you will be a good NFL quarterback. And none of these prospects, Sam Howell, Kenny Pickett, Malik Willis, none of these guys, to me, are the type of guy that I want to build my team around, especially when waiting in the wing in 2023 are a bunch of guys that I would want to build my team around. So if I'm an NFL team, there is no way that I'm touching any of these quarterbacks in the first round, because I don't think there is anything worth picking them that high for. And there's plenty of other prospects that you could draft and actually pay that will impact your team more than these guys will. So I'm not touching a quarterback in the first round. I know that that's out on a limb, but none of these guys are that impressive. And I hope, for the sake of everything that is holy, none of these guys are even backing up Jared Goff in the Honolulu Blue next year, because it would be awful. It'd be a waste of a draft pick, an absolute waste of a draft pick.
You know, it's incredible that was your out on a limb, because that flows into my guarantee so much. We're going to each go down something that we guarantee in this draft. I guarantee you, despite all the consternation, despite some of the Malik Willis fans, I guarantee you that the Detroit Lions do not take a quarterback in number 2 overall in this draft. They will not do it. They're not going to. This is not... Listen, we talked about they hosted him on visits, right? They did all their homework with Malik Willis. Supposedly the front office likes Malik Willis. They did what they need to do to put the possibility out there that this team could actually draft Malik Willis. So if somebody was truly desperate, which I don't think anyone's going to be, there's been smoke about Carolina, I don't buy that either. But if somebody was truly desperate and really thought Malik Willis was the guy, that the threat, at least a little bit of the threat that Detroit may do something preposterous, as we talked about before, that they would trade up and get him. That is what Brad Holmes has done. Nothing more, nothing less. There is no chance. I absolutely guarantee you we will not be taking not just Malik Willis, but any quarterback at number 2 overall in this draft.
My guarantee is a little bit more, I would say, mental and philosophical from a fan's perspective. This draft is going to be one of the most unpredictable drafts that we have seen in a while. Nobody knows who's going number 1, which then means nobody knows who's going number 2, which then means nobody knows who's going number 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, all the way up into 200 and whatever, right? That unpredictability, if you go into it, if you expect the unexpected, then you cannot be surprised. because there is going to be a lot of unexpected that takes place Thursday night. That is my guarantee. There's a lot of unexpected that is going to take place Thursday night because, again, a very, very unpredictable draft. Now, Paul, we're at the final segment. What do you need to get off your chest for Thursday night?
Well, the first thing I need to get off my chest, before I get my get off my chest, is the fact that I love Georgia's defense last year. And some of the things that I am saying tonight, despite us drafting some Georgia players, may have you believing otherwise. And I don't want to get that narrative out of there. The thing is, this is all about efficiency in the draft. You have to use your capital wisely. And for some reason, people want to use it on some Georgia players exceptionally unwisely. And one of the most absurd things that I have heard in this entire draft process, but I've heard it from a lot of different places, and I'm not going to say this is a majority opinion, and I'm not going to say that people actually believe he's in play at number 2, but I have heard way too many people suggest that Jordan Davis, the nose tackle that I've already mentioned from Florida, would be a good pick at number
Georgia.
2 overall in the NFL draft. This is beyond absurd. I am so sick of hearing about this transcendent player that Jordan Davis is and how he is the greatest player to ever grace the history of college football and that he is the lone nose tackle worth picking in the top 5 of the NFL draft. Listen, Aaron Donald didn't even go top 10 in the NFL draft. And his only knock was he was a little bit undersized. Okay? Ndamukong Suh. Do you remember where we drafted him, AJ? We drafted him number 2. This guy was robbed of a Heisman. Mm-hmm. If Jordan Davis played 20 years in college football, I don't think he would have matched the production that Ndamukong Suh had in that one season, his last season in Nebraska. If you want to talk about the gap of what these two showed on film. And I've heard all the arguments, okay? And listen, I want to be exceptionally clear. I think Jordan Davis is a good football player. I think Jordan Davis, his athletic profile is terrifying, okay? It is genuinely scary when you see a man that tips the scales at over 3.5 bills run the way that he runs. I mean, honest to God. Like, if seeing a man like that, imagine being on a battlefield somewhere and you see this hulk of a man and you're like, I'm just running away, dude. I don't even care. I'm just running away. And he's faster than you. It's terrifying, okay? It's freaking horrifying. But we're talking football here. And the impact that you have on a football field. So let's talk about that impact for a second. Production, he had none, okay? And it's not all about college numbers. It's not. We're projecting guys in numbers. Context matters. Context is king, is a favorite saying of mine, right? So he had no production at all. Like, absolutely none for the tier of prospect that we're talking about. Well, okay. Well, what was he surrounded by talent-wise? Well, he was surrounded by excellent talent. So it wasn't that. We already talked about that. But he was such a mismatch at nose tackle. He was constantly double-teamed and occasionally triple-teamed. Okay, I'll buy that. I've seen that. That's hurt many guys' numbers across the board. Absolutely. Recently at Michigan, Rashawn Gary had that issue. Between the role he was asked to play and the fact that he was constantly doubled, he didn't put up the production that some people would have liked. Still went top 15 in the NFL draft to the Green Bay Packers. So that's fine. I get it. He's been double-teamed. He's been triple-teamed. Still doesn't excuse how bad his production is, but we'll take it as a knock. So, okay, what kind of player is he? Is he a pass rusher? What does he give me in the pass rush? Because this is a modern NFL we're talking about. Oh, he doesn't give you anything in the pass rush. Well, why? Like, he's this uber elite athlete. Like, he's got to at least be able to put pressures on the quarterback, rack up sacks. Not really. See, honestly, he's a two-down player. He's a traditional zero technique, two-down player. And a big reason for that is because if he rushes the passer a single time, he's getting oxygen the next 6 plays on the sideline. And that is, of course, hyperbolic. But this guy he played about a third of Georgia's snaps. It was much less than half. This all-world player in college played way less than half of his team's snaps on defense. This is a red flag so absurdly ginormous. And this wasn't an injury issue, man. This is conditioning. So yes, he's an elite athlete that's a gazillion pounds. That weight hurts him. He can't stay on the field. He's a two-down player in a league that is built around getting to the passer. Right? This isn't 1955 where I just need to hem in the run and everything's going to be okay. I have got to be able to get to the passer. Aaron Donald isn't making a gazillion dollars a year, called the best defensive player in football, because he's so good against the run and demands double teams. He destroys your passing game from the interior of the line. I haven't seen Jordan Davis do that enough, and even if he had the capability to do it, even if you say, I think he can do that at this level, how is he ever going to gain the conditioning to stay on the field long enough to be worth that kind of asset? I would not take Jordan Davis in the first 3 rounds. The only way I would consider him in the 3rd round is if I am a contending team and I have a specific role. I know that he's ready to play right now. I know that he can play that role from day one. This is kind of the Bill Belichick thing, right? Like I'm finding a guy that can fit a niche on my team that I need. That's a hole. I think if we fill this, we have a good chance to win a Super Bowl. And I'm getting you for that role, and I'm going to put you in position to succeed. I am not wasting a 1st round pick, let alone a top 10 pick, on a guy that can't play half the snaps in a football game and a guy that doesn't rush the passer. I think it's the most mind-boggling. His athletic profile is incredible. I think he's a good football player. What we have elevated him to is it's similar in absurdity to Trayvon Walker. I don't get it. I don't get it.
Let's not go on that again. Did that feel good? Because I feel like you hate Georgia's defense.
I love Georgia's defense, honest to God. And I
just
had
don't
a lot
like
of
those
money.
2 players. I know.
I had a lot of money on Georgia to win the title last year before the season. And I really think they're one of the greatest. But defense is a sum of your parts, right? And they had so many good to great college players. That doesn't mean they all have to be top 10 draft picks. It doesn't.
You're 100% correct.
It does not how it works.
Did you get it off your chest? You feel good?
I got it off my chest. I'm still upset.
It's my turn.
We'll see when draft comes. If he doesn't go in the first round,
turn.
I'll be happier. You can have your turn. I'm going to take another.
Okay, he's going to go in the 1st round. I just want you to know that. But anyway.
I'm going to be mad. Unless it's like the Packers. Packers can have him.
Yeah, they can have him. I'm coming at this from a Lions perspective. For years, as a fan, we approached the draft with a guy at the helm named Matt Millen, who infamously drafted 3 wide receivers in a row in the 1st round. And then we also lived through the dark ages of Quinn Trisha, which got us nothing. Taze Tabor in the 2nd round, Gerard Davis, the dude from Hawaii in the 2nd round, right?
Jelani Tavai, baby, let's go.
Yeah, Tavai. But he saw something in him, right? A 6th round pick that he saw something in him and drafted him in the
5th round.
round.
People had him going in the 5th round. Be nice.
Okay.
Don't forget Jeff
way too
Okudah,
big
number
of a
3
reach.
overall. You can't forget that one.
And Okudah, 3rd overall. Of course, I wasn't going to forget that one. But what I want to get off my chest from the Lions fan perspective is Brad Holmes, in your first draft, you had a pretty good draft. Guys that contributed, right? You got Penei Sewell. You got Amon-Ra St. Brown, who had a phenomenal end of the season, right? You feel and you get the sense that there's some kind of momentum that's being built. And right now, as a Lions fan, Brad, we trust you. Don't kill the momentum. Don't kill the momentum by drafting somebody that is not worth a number 2 overall pick when you could potentially trade back. Do what you can to continue to allow our trust in you to build and continue to build, because we have labored our beloved Lions for generations of mediocrity. And it seems like maybe with Dan Campbell and you, the ship is turning a little bit. And we hope that it continues to turn. Don't give us reasons to break our TV screens. Don't give us reasons to punch our friends that are sitting next to us. Don't give Paul a reason to have a vein pop out of his head. You have momentum, Brad, and I'm pleading with you, and I'm asking you to please keep that momentum going. If Aiden Hutchinson is there, take Aiden Hutchinson. If Aiden Hutchinson isn't there and you like Thibodeau, take Thibodeau. Do not draft a quarterback in the first round. Do not do something that makes Lion fans go, well, SOL. Here we go again. Please, Brad, for the sake of all humanity, and definitely for the sake of every Lions fan that swears allegiance to a team that can't do anything but be mediocre, and even less than mediocre in a lot of instances, please, 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 keep the momentum you have built going. And that's what I need to get off my chest. I just need Brad to keep the momentum going. And we're going to see Thursday night, Paul. We're going to see Thursday night.
You are so much more gentle with yours than mine tonight. I don't
I'm not angry tonight. You're angry tonight.
I don't feel good. I'm not feeling so hot. Maybe it's the anxiety of the draft. It's definitely the food poisoning from Friday that I'm still getting over. I didn't realize how much built-up frustration I had, honestly.
I'm shocked. I felt like I needed to lay a couch out and just have you lay down on it and be your therapist for a second. But anyway, we're going to see how this all shakes out Thursday night. We are going to be live with you Thursday night for the draft, first round coverage, and we're going to see, does Jordan Davis go in the first round? Does Trayvon Walker get taken first overall? And then what do the Lions do with that number 2 pick? And we're going to be live. It's going to be entertaining. It's going to be fun. It's going to be just show up. You're not going to want to miss it. It's going to be fantastic. But that's going to do it for us here at Beyond the Box tonight. For Paul Rochon, I'm AJ Reilly. We will see you Thursday night for the draft, and then we'll see you again next week as we recap the draft, and hopefully Paul has not jumped off a cliff by that point. We'll see you all Thursday night.
Man on a mission, I'ma get it. You know I be on the way. Yeah. You know I be on the